yesterday, when they had the hearing, the global warming hearing, every single Democrat, without one exception, is right there in line with them, supporting the president doing through regulations what he couldn't do through legislation. Now, in the biggest of all the tax increases, now we have, you're familiar with the term MACT, M-A-C-T, Maximum Achievable Technology. In other words, how much technology is there when they say we are going to reduce by law the emissions that you're going to have in coal plants, and they have them so low they're actually below where the technology is there. Maximum Achievable Control Technology, M-A-C-T. And so that's true with all of these regulations. The Boiler MAC, and they continue to do that. The gal that was the lady who's going to take over as administrator of the EPA, Gina McCarthy, I headed up her opposition. She won last night. She was confirmed. It's the last vote that we had. And we knew that was going to happen, but she had been in charge of the air regulation as the assistant director of EPA. So those regulations are going to come in. The regulations are really killing us. The biggest one is cap and trade. And if I could for a minute, what I'm going to tell you is something that is not, it's incontrovertible. I mean, these are facts. The $300 to $400 billion a year that if you had the legislation, if you're doing cap and trade by regulation, legislation, that's documented. That comes from the Wharton School, that comes from MIT, Charles Rivers and Associates. They all agree that's the range. And here in Oklahoma, when you do the math, that means about $3,000 a family that pays taxes. So you have that huge cost. Now, since they tried to do it through legislation for 12 years, and we defeated them every time, they now are doing it through the Clean Air Act, through regulation. To do that, they had to have an endangerment finding, and they used the IPCC, which is the United Nations, ironically, right before they were totally discredited in ClimateGate. So the reason I bring this up is that the Clean Air Act, all of the legislation said we are going to regulate the emissions of CO2 in every entity that emits 25,000 tons a year or more. However, the Clean Air Act is 250 tons a year. That would mean every farm, every household, every hospital, right here where we're sitting would have to be regulated. So if the cost was at the old standard, we haven't even calculated what that would be. So that's what's going on right now. Again, it's right down party lines.